Hi there, today's book is The Senator's Wife by Liv Constantine. So, in the beginning of this book, we meet Sloane and Robert. Robert is the senator, and he has been married to Sloane for a very long time. They have a great relationship, and they are friends with Whit, who's Whitaker Montgomery. He is married to Robert's cousin, Peg. Now, they have a really tumultuous relationship. And Peg has been drinking a lot. She's acting really erratic. And they were spending a little weekend together at their second home. And of course they were fighting, and she was accusing him of cheating. And he walked out and left her, and she was crying and, all that. So later, I'm not quite sure how long ago from this incident, Robert went over to Peg's house. So Peg had called her over. And so Whittaker showed up there. And so while they were there, she was upset that he was cheating on her and all that. And before you know it, Peg pulls out a gun. And so Peg was going to shoot Whit. And so Robert had jumped in the way. He tried to stop her from doing that. And then he got shot. So now Whit went to Peg, tried to get the gun from her, and he kind of shot her in the process of that. Which, when this shooting of Peg happened, it seemed to be deliberate. But then when he called the police, he said that she killed Robert and then she killed herself. Which I knew when that happened, I was like, oh boy, this guy is no good. So anyway, 2 years later, now Whit is married to Sloane. So as you remember, Sloane was Robert's wife, who was the one that was killed. And now he is married to her. So I didn't like that at all, because he was cheating on his wife. Why would she think that she would be any different? But I'm like, okay, maybe he's changed. Hopefully for her, he has. But anyway, he seemed to be a doting husband, earlier on. And so she has lupus, and so every once in a while she has a flare with that. And so now at this time she's in her 50s, and so she's been putting off a hip replacement for a while, but things have been getting worse and worse. So she decided that she was going to go ahead and get the hip replacement surgery. So they were doing interviews to have a home health aide person come in to help her while she recovered. Now Sloane, Robert was from a well-to-do family, and so inherently Sloane as well. They are very rich, and they have this foundation called the Emerson Chase Foundation, where they do charity work and all that. And Robert was a senator, so he has wealth as well. So she runs the foundation, and little by little, he tries to weasel his way into having power in the foundation. As she was having her surgery and whatnot, he's bringing up how she shouldn't work too much and how he can help. And I just want to scream, no, don't let him. But anyway, she signed him up as a trustee to help out with certain things in the foundation. And so they hired on a lady whose name was Athena Karras, who was supposed to be helping as her home health person, and she's supposed to help with some admin stuff, when she can't do things with the foundation, for her to help out, go and get documents and stuff like that. So we find that there is some kind of burgeoning relationship between Whit and Athena, which is weird. And so we get the impression that Athena is up to something. She's there on a mission, but we don't know what it is. And she's talking about this other guy named Clint. So it seems that, she's getting information from Clint, and they're working together to some kind of outcome that we don't know yet. So she's there, and she comes off really disingenuous to me. She's overly nice, but at the same time, she has an agenda. So anyway, she's cozying up to Whit, and she's looking for information, and we later find out that she tapped Sloane's phone. Now, as after Sloane has this surgery. It's supposed to help her, but it seemed like it's not. And then, her health is getting worse and worse. So, apparently Whit was taking her to see other specialists, and, the consensus that it was doom and gloom. So Sloane has always been worried about this lupus thing attacking her brain, and it seems like now that she is having hallucinations. One day her housekeeper saw her, and it seemed like she was going to jump off the balcony, which was really, really strange. Now, she also felt like Athena was putting stuff in her drink. She's always offering her smoothies and always offering her something to drink. And one day she saw some kind of white stuff on her smoothie, like, swimming over the top. And you would think that this would be a clue to not drink anything from her, but she thought maybe it was stevia. And so she decided that, she wasn't going to say anything, but she was going to stop, after a while she decided she was going to stop drinking stuff from her. So Rosemary, we meet Rosemary, who's her former mother-in-law. That was Robert's mom. And she never took to Whit at all. She didn't like him at all. So she decided to look into Whit a little bit further. She had always felt that something was funny about the way Robert and Peg died. But, she had reached out to a friend of hers who was a former attorney and now an investigator to look into Whit because, when he was married to Peg, he was cozying up and it seemed that he was having an affair with this lady called Madeline. And Madeline was married to one of the gentlemen who was one of his biggest contributor. And so they had been having an affair, and this seemed to have been carried over into his marriage to Sloane, which Sloane was unaware of. He would still see her as well during their marriage that, she wasn't aware of. So Madeline is married to this gentleman called Fred Sawyer. And so she's blatantly, flirts with him in front of her. And, she always has something snarky to say when she sees Sloane. But she's trying, Sloane is trying to be the bigger woman and not, come off as jealous and all that. But Whit is not to be trusted. So anyway, Whit, along with another senator and the vice president and a congresswoman called Faye, were observed to be meeting on several occasions. And this is something that Rosemary has received from the report of the investigator that they had, and he felt like Whit was up to no good. So she was going to talk to Sloane about this, but before she was able to, she was attacked in her house, both her and Faye, because she had called Faye over to ask her about some stuff, but Faye, who's supposedly a friend of hers, wasn't really giving her a whole lot, and she was trying to make it seem as though, she was reaching pretty much, and tried to say, well, Whit is one of the best senators, and he would never do this, blah, 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 and just placating, but also not giving her a whole lot. So anyway, Rosemary ended up in the hospital as a result of the attack that took place, and then when she got out of the hospital, she couldn't find the report that she received from the investigator, which was weird. And another thing that kind of made it seem like she was losing her head because it's not there anymore. In the meantime, Sloane is getting worse and worse, and so it seemed as though Whit and Athena were working together to pretty much get rid of her. He had taken her cell phone, he had taken her laptop, saying, now he's really being nasty to her because he was like, well, you're working too much, and he confiscated her laptop. And when she asked for it, he wouldn't give it back. So he was kind of now treating her like a child and downright jerky, in a sense. So she wasn't able to get in touch with anyone. People would call the house looking for her and would not be able to reach her. Her mother-in-law, her former mother-in-law would show up and he wouldn't let her in. And so he was isolating her from everybody else. Her daughter, Emmy, who was working in California, could not reach her either. And what he had done was set up a new number and claiming it was Emmy's new number. And she would be calling pretty much a number that's not her daughter's number. So he was doing a lot of, shady things. And by all accounts, it seemed like, he wanted to get rid of her. So he would take over, everything that she owned. So anyway, he's having a relationship. Well, it wasn't sexual, but they were getting closer and closer, him and Athena, and he was talking about having a life with her, which is so weird because he doesn't really know anything about her like that, but it seemed as though it was all love bombing in a sense because he had an agenda. He wanted her to help him get rid of Sloane, but he wasn't saying it in so many words. So, she volunteered to get rid of Sloane, which I was like, please don't do that. So, ultimately though, she did as he asked, but there was a twist in the end, which I was very happy about. One thing that I really enjoyed about this book is that from the beginning, I was really invested in the story and the characters. I wanted Whit and his evil self to get the judgment and the punishment that he deserved, and I wanted Sloane to open up her eyes and get rid of him. I also wanted Rosemary to be able to bring forth the truth to Sloane so she can know everything that's been happening behind her back and be able to make the necessary decisions.
So I really enjoyed this book. However, Sloane really, really annoyed me because all those red flags, and she just ignored stuff. Even that one time when she saw the white stuff in her drink and she's like, oh, what could that be? I'm not going to drink that. And then she turns around and drink other stuff or take other foods. And I'm like, who does this? So I have to remind myself that it is fiction, even though some of the things got on my nerves. But either way, it was a good book. I would give it 4 stars. And it could have been higher if I feel like if the plot was, these little things that I mentioned, these weren't in the book. Or some things kind of made a little bit more sense. But I still overall enjoyed the book and would recommend it anyway. So if you have read or listened to this book, let me know your thoughts. Until next time.